The Jerry Bader Show. Woo-hoo! Yes, indeed, we are live at the Republican National Convention. Now, we've been talking to a lot of people, name familiar names, but let's be clear. The convention and its roots is about the roots, about the folks who come here from all over the country and are members of state delegation to nominate their party's candidate for president. And one of those is someone who's very familiar to me. I have corresponded with her over the years. You may recognize her voice. She is Barb from Oconto every now and again. You have not called the show recently, though.
Because I've been busy with a lot of election type stuff, do volunteer work and then raising money to get here.
I always think of you, I think of Lambeau Field, when you won our contest that time,
Yes.
to do a little bit of play-by-play with Bill Jarts, not play-by-play, but PA for Family Night. And I was there. I heard
Yeah.
you do it. When Bill announced that you were going to be doing it, I told my family, listen, this is, and they were all impressed.
Oh, thank you.
They thought you did a really good job. And Bill, I mean, he's such a great guy to work
Definitely.
with. All right, let's talk about the serious stuff. Let's start with, and this is going to sound like a dumb question, but I bet you almost nobody listening can answer this. How do you become a delegate?
Well, you have to, we go in Wisconsin, you go through the county, you're elected at the caucus, the county district caucus level. And I started inquiring about a year before our caucus and said, hey, I'm here. I want to be a delegate. When you get the information and when I can apply, let me know and I'll apply.
Here's the big thing that I'm getting asked about. There are actually three things that I'm getting asked about. One, of course, is do I think Isaac is going to distract from this attention? From the attention from the convention? What I said is, will President Obama try to exploit Isaac if it makes a major landfall? Yeah, I think he might.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the question nobody really wants to ask, but that's the question they're asking. All right, here's the next one. And I think Barb, you sent me something on this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know several people did. The Ron Paul insurrection, the Ron Paulies. What as a delegate, what have you been exposed to, and what are you hearing?
I'm hearing from people they say they're Tea Party related groups. Apparently there's something, a change of the rules of the Rules Committee, and some Tea Party groups back in Wisconsin are saying that that's all Ron Paul stuff, so disregard it, but it's not really just Ron Paul stuff.
Okay, you said that very succinctly. That's exactly. Now, Ron Paul's supporters were hoping that he could actually have this last minute, but the rules changes that you're talking about actually that's not just a Ron Paul thing. No, you're absolutely right about that. Let me just read a little. This is Michelle Malkin's take on it. Drew McKissick is a longtime conservative activist and a blogger who's in attendance on the Republican National Convention's Rules Committee meetings. He and others on the ground are sounding alarm over rules changes that he and many other attendees believe will hurt grassroots movement conservatives. The battle is being cast by some observers as a narrow fight between Ron Paul advocates and the rest of the party. Drew says that's not true, and many other state delegations who oppose top-down delegate choices are chiming in. It's long, it's hard to explain, but and we're not even necessarily talking about for this convention, right? But for future conventions, is that it would make it almost impossible to defeat an establishment candidate such as Mitt Romney, who had the party's backing from the start.
From what I have heard from some of my Tea Party friends that have been talking about it, and they've been busily scurrying behind the scenes to get the word out about it. And yes, it would. The establishment candidates would have veto power over delegates chosen by the district caucuses and that.
So, can this be stopped? And is this something that we're going to see rear its head at the convention?
I was looking online this morning, and apparently there's been some sort of compromise that's going to prevent a firestorm on the convention floor, but I haven't looked into that a whole lot.
That's exactly my concern. Is the last thing we need is another distraction, and I'm not saying this isn't a legitimate threat.
Oh, yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, but I would sure like to see us get this put to bed and not have this type of firefight on the floor.
Oh, yes. From what I've read, the Texas delegation, even those who aren't Ron Paul supporters, are totally against the new rules. I've been talking to other people that are they are against the rules changes, and even they're not necessarily Ron Paul supporters.
We're talking with Wisconsin Delegate Barb Finger, and I want to have you, because I share this with the listeners, and I know they would be interested in an update. Your son was injured in the military. Tell us just quickly what happened to him and how he's doing.
He was back last December. He was wounded in an IED explosion in Afghanistan, and flown to Brooke Army Medical Center in Texas to have his leg put back together, and thank God they were successful. And after some therapy and that, he went to his home base to continue his therapy. His home base is up in Alaska at Fort Wainwright.
So a lot of rehab, a lot of
therapy.
Yeah.
Apparently, in Texas, he was doing therapy 5 days a week, and then when he told me that he was doing it only 3 days a week up in Alaska, and I said, "What's going on?" He said, "It's much more intensive. He wouldn't be able to do that therapy 5 days a week."
All right, and we're just about out of time. So, Barb, I know it's an exciting time for you. We had Scott Walker on live yesterday, and
oh wow!
But man, his voice was shot from talking to you folks. And just if you can, how fired up is the Wisconsin delegation? This is their party.
We are very pumped up, and especially yesterday when we had that abbreviated convention session, and there were probably 30 or 40 cameras pointed at the Wisconsin delegation, and some members of the delegation got interviewed by numerous European-based news organizations. That was quite interesting.
And we are the conservative center of the universe right
we
now.
Are.
Reince and Paul and Scott and even Ron Johnson.
Oh, yes.
And on and on. Barb, listen, I know it's an exciting time for you. Enjoy the rest of the convention.
I will, definitely. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Absolutely. Barb Finger, a delegate from Oconto County, and a friend of the show, to say the least.